Welcome to the McDowell Mountain Regional Park, home of the McDowell Mountain Frenzy trail runs, the second race in the Desert Runner Trail Series.
All right, so last weekend I ran my first ever 50-mile ultramarathon, and I have had many people ask me since I completed it how it went. And I'm gonna be honest, I kind of suck at sharing. Like, I'll just say, oh, it was hard, and I'm really happy I did it, or proud I did it, and I'll kind of leave it at that. And then if they ask questions, I'll answer. But I wanted to just recap my entire experience, put it to notes, put it into a video. This was a massive achievement for me. This is one of my favorite moments of 2024. And so I just wanted to share. Now, before I do, I wanted to remind you guys that I am a fat loss coach. I help people lose fat, and running is not a part of our program. In fact, if you're trying to lose fat and you have quite a bit of fat to lose, I don't even recommend running. However, I am fit, I have lost the fat, I'm metabolically and hormonally healthy, and so I like pushing myself with these challenges. So with that said, if you are struggling losing fat, you're looking for a system that works really, really well, you want to see how we can help, head down below this video. There's going to be a link there for a complimentary consultation. I would love to chat and see how we can help you. All right, with that said, let's get into it. All right, 50-mile race. So I've had a couple people ask me why I did this race, and the simple answer is my buddy Brady asked me. So Brady's a good friend of mine here in Arizona. He is actually a bodybuilder, and he started running in May, which is just insanely impressive. He had his first 50K race a couple months ago, and then this was his first 50-mile race. I can't even imagine. It's less than half a year, and he's doing these incredible, incredible things. And so when he asked me, I'm gonna be honest, I had quite a bit of resistance to it. I had just done maybe 4 months ago a rim to rim to rim run in the Grand Canyon, which is about 48 miles, which actually helped because it gave me the confidence, even though I wasn't in the best shape that I've ever been going into this race. I knew my body was capable. I knew that I could mentally push through. So I had some resistance when Brady asked. It wasn't like the first thing that I wanted to do, especially because I was still coming off of that 48-mile race. I remember how much it hurt, but I decided to join. I thought it would be a super cool experience. And so leading into the race, I probably had 4 to 6 weeks knowing that I was gonna do it. So 4 to 6 weeks of dedicated training. Did a couple longer runs around 10 miles. I hit 2 18-mile runs. And then that second 18-mile run, I was able to kind of stack a couple runs in a row to increase the volume. So I hit 18 miles, I hit 8 miles the next day, and then 6 miles that third day. The sad part, or the scary part of that last 6-miler was around mile 5, my knee started hurting really, really bad. It was like my quad knee area. I've only told this to I think one person because I did not want to give it any energy, and I was super nervous about getting out on the course for the 50-miler and having it lock up or be in pain within the first 5 miles. So after that run, I gave it about a week to relax, and then the Saturday before the race, I ran 6 miles just very slowly, a really solid pace, but just not trying to crush it, and my knee felt good. So I went into the race feeling pretty confident. Race day, or leading up to the race, was just fueling with some carbs. I actually followed the suit of Brady. So Brady tried to hit 1,000 grams of carbs Thursday and Friday before the race, which is insane. I didn't think I was gonna hit that much, but I just went with the idea of carbing up more. So I ate a lot of things I normally wouldn't eat in order to get those carbs. It kind of ended up hurting me at the beginning, but then helping me at the end because I felt heavy going into the race. I didn't feel as light, as energized, as ready to go. However, I really do believe it helped on the back end of the race because I did have a lot of stored carbs to be able to be used, because I felt good for a good portion of the race. I felt really healthy, really energetic, but it probably took 45 to 60 minutes for me to get into that state. The first 30 to 45 to 60 felt a little bit heavy. For fuel for the day, I used Go Bars from BPN. I used Go Gels from BPN, probably my favorite endurance supplement company. I had Bobo's muffins, I had dried mango, I had a couple other gels, had a lot of different variety of foods, but when you're running that long, you need to fuel. So you need to constantly be on top of it. I was aiming for about 300 calories every 45 to 60 minutes. Near the end of the race, I wasn't really hitting that because your body is just pretty much rejecting food at that point, but I was able to fuel pretty well, and I did feel good about that. Let's bring up the course map for a second because I want to show you guys what I was running. So this is the McDowell Mountain Park. Here is the starting line, also the finish line, of course. And basically what the race looks like is the first 26 or so miles are pretty flat. So you can see down here, the elevation. There's like a slight increase, but it's no crazy hills. And then when you hit this aid station, you have 3 peaks in a row. So the first peak was called East End. This would be up here, and you come down. The second peak was Windgate, go down. And then the third peak, which was the hardest, which I would get to, is called Thompson Peak, which if you are from Scottsdale and you've done it, you know the difficulty or the steepness. After that, you drop back down, and the remainder of the race, which is about 19 miles, is pretty flat. You have kind of a downhill, which is super nice. Obviously, it's just like rolling hills. It's not just straight down, which would have been so nice, but I'll get into that in a moment. And then the other interesting part is at the 40-mile mark, you actually hit the finish line, and you have a drop bag there in case you need more supplies, more food. My headlamp was in my drop bag, which I'll get to later. And then you actually have to go out and run another 10 miles, which was pretty tough. It was cool seeing there was Brady's friend group, Brady's wife, his friends at the finish line for that 40-mile mark. So it was nice seeing them, and they gave me a little boost, which felt good. But then you had to go out, hit another 10 miles, which was rough. So that is the course, kind of running you through how it went. So the first 26 miles were pretty standard. I got a little nervous because around mile 10, my legs started getting really, really sore. Like nothing hurt to the point where I figured it was damaged or anything that would be, long-term bad, but they were sore. They were feeling it. And so knowing that I have to do that 4 more times was a little nerve-wracking, but just kept focused, just one foot in front of the other, kept a solid pace. It's another thing is not feeling the need to go out and crush the pace. Brady actually had some friends that did the 50K race. It started 30 minutes after ours. So the 50 miles starts at 7 a.m. The 50K started at 7:30, and his friends probably around mile 12 passed us. And so at first I was nervous. I was like, shoot, we must be going pretty slow. But I looked at the pace, kind of checked in, and I realized, well, we're also doing almost double the distance. So I'd rather start off slow, just stay steady, and have more in the tank at the end instead of absolutely burning out from wanting to crush the pace at the beginning. As far as the 3 peaks, once we got to those were probably the most challenging part of the day outside of the last 10 miles, which I will touch on. East End was pretty steep. You really couldn't run up. You really couldn't run down. Like you could jog down, but there's a lot of rocks, a lot of switchbacks, so a lot of turns. And so that was difficult. Windgate was not as steep, was definitely still a grind. And then the third was the most difficult. So the third, you hit an aid station before to fuel up, and then you go up, and if you've ever done Thompson Peak, you know what I'm talking about, but it is steep. You are basically going up. And what I was thankful for with this peak was that it was actually pavement for a good portion of it. So if you've ever done like a hike or a trail run before, if you're going uphill and you have a lot of these small rocks, it can be really easy to take a step and then slide back a little bit. There's not a lot of traction, so you can't find as slow and steady of a pace. You have to be a little more intentional with where you step. With this though, having the pavement was so beautiful because my shoes had grip and I had my hiking poles with me, so I could just like hit the floor, get grip with the shoes, and keep going. This was probably my favorite part of the day because I absolutely crushed the incline. I passed so many people on the way up just because I was staying slow and steady. Most people were taking a bunch of steps and then taking a break, collecting their breath, collecting themselves, letting their legs rest, and continuing to go. I think from doing the Grand Canyon and a couple other elevation challenges this year, my legs have just been primed for that type of movement. And so was I moving so fast? No, but I was just steady. The entire time I did not stop. There's a couple points where it just like leveled out for a little bit. I was even able to jog those, but I was really proud of myself when I got to the top. And this is actually the only video I got from the day, was on my way down from the peak. So that was awesome. I think after that, I had like a huge confidence boost. Just felt really proud of myself, really good about how strong I was feeling. And so after that, I cruised to the next aid station. After this aid station, I sent out a voice message. I like texting here and there with people. I like getting people's encouragement and feeling boosted, but my phone died after this. I charged it overnight, but for some reason I woke up and it was at 80%. And then I get in the car and I'm halfway to the race. About 20 minutes in, I realized I forgot my charger. So I'm using my maps to get there. I was probably at like 60% by the time I got to the race. So the battery died, which was really tough because it meant I was solo. After Thompson Peak, I had basically pushed past Brady, so we had separated at that point, which was pretty tough. Being in the wilderness, you're seeing people on the trail, you're seeing people at the aid stations, but not having my phone was a little bit difficult, especially when I share what happened a little bit later in the day. But after that, I kind of was just able to lock in around mile 38, everything was standard. I was definitely hurting. And I think that's worth mentioning is like past mile 10, I was pretty much hurting the whole time. Like my legs were sore. Every step was just a reminder. And so at mile 38, you know, you get to this point where you're so focused on just what's in front of you. You're trail running, so you have to watch out for rocks, watch where you step, and you just do one foot after another. And I had this really beautiful moment at mile 38 where I'm sore, I'm so focused on what's in front of me. And I look up for a second and I see these two people, because we're in a race, but they're public trails. So you have hikers, you had bikers, you had other people that were on the trail. And I see this couple, and this guy has his arm around his girl, and they're looking out into the distance. And I'm so just focused on what's in front of me. I look up, I see them, I look at what they're looking at, and I see just this beautiful sunset. The sun is starting to go down at this point. You have the mountains, so you see all these peaks, and then the sun is literally just starting to creep down behind the mountains. So it's just insanely beautiful. And I'm just like so grateful that I see this couple, and I look at this beautiful sunset, and then I look back and it was literally two cactus. It wasn't even real people, but my brain had just like, I don't know if I was delusional, I don't know if I was just so focused, but it legitimately was just two cactus that I thought were two people. But after that, I had like a little boost because I was just like, that is God telling me that I need to be grateful. I can't get so wrapped up in being in that moment and just what's in front of me. And I can't be thinking about the pain and how sore I am. I need to take in like, wow, I'm doing this. I'm doing this race. It's beautiful. I'm so blessed to live here. And it was just a really beautiful moment. And I think I needed it in that moment. So I was grateful for that. After that, so we get to mile 40, let's say, and I am sore. So this is where we cross the finish line, but then we have to keep going. It was really cool seeing Nate, seeing Maddie, Brady's wife, and seeing a couple other people at the finish line because they were super, super helpful. You know, what do you need? What can we help you with? I was able to refuel up at that point, get more water in my pack. And then I started to run out, and I get maybe less than 60 seconds away from that starting point, the finish line or the starting line, and I realized I just forgot my hiking poles, which if anyone's done a long race at that point, like you really do need them. Can you do it without them? Yes, but putting all that weight on your legs and not using the poles for the balance can be tough. And so thankfully I remembered. At that point I had gotten my headlamp too, and so I ran back. Nate got me the poles, which was super, super helpful. And then I'm heading out again. And then Nate comes up yelling behind me, hey, 1 second. And I turn around and he's like, do you have your headlamp? I'm like, yes, I have my headlamp. Thank you so much for checking. I keep going, and probably 5 to 10 minutes past that point, I don't even think it was that, I realized that I had brought in my drop bag extra batteries because I just have this weird thing where every time I go out on a long hike, my batteries die in my head. And at this point, it's dark. As a reminder, my phone is dead, so I don't have a flashlight. And I'm going out there. At this point, people are so spread apart that I'm really not counting on seeing many people on the trail. And so I'm like 5 minutes out, or less than that. It was probably way less than that. But I'm like, I'm not going back. I'm gonna make the batteries in this headlamp last. And so I look at it, and I can't, usually they have like an amount of power that you can see. So they'll show you it's 1, 2, or 3 bars of power. There's only 1 bar, but it's in the middle. So I have no idea how much juice my headlamp has. So immediately in that moment, I'm nervous. I'm like, if I get stuck out here because the sun's going down in the next 10 minutes, 20 minutes, it's gonna be pitch black. And I'm like, if the sun goes down, I'm like, yeah, I could wait for someone, but it's gonna throw a huge wrench in this situation. So I'm going, and at this point I get to the next aid station, and I am sore, I'm beaten down, I'm in pain. I'm really struggling at this point. This is probably mile 43-ish, 42-ish. And I sit down in the chair at the aid station, which I hadn't sat all day. And I just asked the guy, it's just me and him. It's dark. They got a little light on the station. They got all the snacks, the water. Just like, do you have batteries? He looks, no battery. I'm sitting there. I don't know what to do. I'm like, should I just risk it? Like, should I just go out, turn it on, make it last for as long as I can, and then just see what happens? And thankfully, there is this guy, shout out Kevin. Kevin comes along. He had taken a wrong turn, so he had to double back, which I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm so thankful you took a wrong turn. But I basically asked, he's like ready to go. I can tell this guy's in good shape. He's running fast. He had actually, I learned he had done the 25K in the morning, and then he had signed up for the other 25 miles or something. So he was about doing the same distance, but it was a different race. I just asked him, I'm like, hey, I don't know if my headlamp battery's gonna die. Can I just follow you for a couple miles? Or as long as you'll have me? Like, can I just keep up with you? If you wanna go ahead of me because you got places to be, please do. If I can keep up with you, can I do it? And so he's like, yeah, man, come along. So for the next probably 3 miles, we're sticking together. The first 5 minutes, I have my headlamp off, I'm behind him, and it's tough still because it's pitch black. His headlamp is going in front of him. So I can see up there, but I can't see what's in front of my feet, which is the most important. I don't want to step on a rock. I don't want to roll my ankle. I don't want to make any mistakes. So I'm trying to keep up with him. Eventually I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna stick with him as long as I can, but I'm just gonna turn my headlamp on. If it dies, I'm just gonna do my best to maybe go in front of him or to figure it out. And so I'm going, I'm really nervous. We're having an awesome conversation, which at that point, I'm pretty sure I was delirious. I have no idea what we talked about. All I know is it was taking my attention away from how much my legs hurt. And so that really helped my morale. I was probably able to keep up with him for about 3 miles, and he would run. His pace was so good. He was probably going under a 10-minute pace. I was struggling at like a 12-minute pace at that point, but I was pushing because I was like, if I don't keep up with him, if my headlamp dies, I'm in a pretty sticky situation. So I was pushing, and then he would walk, and then he would go really fast, and then he would walk. And then at one point he was just like, hey man, I don't know what the cutoff is for me. I think I'm just gonna go for it. And I was like, yes, please leave. And so at that point he left. I'm all on my own. My headlamp is still on, thankfully. I have no idea. It could die in the next 5 seconds. It could last the entire race. And my intuition is saying like, hey, just trust God. Trust God, it's gonna be okay, but you gotta move. So I'm moving those last 4-ish miles, like from mile 40, let's say 5 to 49 before that 50 mark. I am just in pain. Every step hurt. I'm trying to run the downhills, but my knees are sore. I'm trying to run the flats, and that was probably the best part for me. I'm like stumbling up the uphills. It's getting cold because there's no sunlight. Thankfully I had packed a long sleeve, but I was still freezing. Honestly, it was an absolute grind. I was screaming to myself at points, trying to hype myself up, amp myself up. What I thought was cool was every time I would stretch, because my legs were super, super sore and tight at that point, every time I would stretch, when I got out of the stretch, I would get the chills. I would get freezing. And I think that was because when I stretched and then stopped stretching, all the blood in my body rushed to my legs, which took it out of my upper body, which made me super cold. So I was doing Wim Hof at one point, just like deep breaths, hyping myself up. It's gonna be okay. You've got this. Keep going. I can do this. And it was an absolute grind. However, 1 mile out from the finish line, I could see the finish line, I could see the lights. I was like, I'm almost there. It hurt, it sucked, but thankfully I made that last mile. My headlamp made the entire time, which was incredible, and I just felt amazing crossing that finish line. My girlfriend actually surprised me at the finish line, which was awesome. She came with her roommates, they made signs, so I had like a huge boost after that, but it was just completely, I had no appetite. I was tired, but also energized. I struggled going to sleep that night, but it was just incredible. So overall, the experience, now that it's over, was amazing. I had someone ask me the day after if I was gonna do a 100-mile race at some point, and immediately my answer was like, I can't even think about that right now, because the thought of running 1 more mile after finishing 50 was, I didn't think I could do it. Like, I know I could do it, but it was the absolute last thing in the world that I wanted to do. But now that it's kind of worn off, it's been almost a week, I am considering it. It's a good question I got to think about. It was so inspiring to see Brady crush the race, seeing a guy who crushes the bodybuilding world. He hiked to base camp of Everest, and then he started running in May, hit that 50K race, and then hit a 50-mile race. It was so inspiring, and it was just an incredible experience through it. So we'll see what's next, regardless of what these are, regardless of what comes next year. I'm just so grateful for the year I've had in terms of how I've pushed my mind, how I've pushed my body, even how our business has grown and being able to help the clients that we do. It has been such a blessing, but so grateful. If you watched all the way through here, thank you for being here. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know if you would ever do a race. Let me know what the longest race you've done is. It's really cool to see the types of people that come out into these races, and also just how supportive people are. Like, you're running, if you pass someone or they pass you, everyone's like, good job. Like that last loop, you're actually double backing when you did the last 10 and people are coming in still to the finish line. It was like every person I passed, you could tell we both had no energy, but it was still good job. So that was super awesome. Overall too, I finished in 13:27, I want to say 27 or 28. So right under 13 and a half hours. I had originally set the goal under 13 with Brady, so I was a little disappointed that I didn't do it, but that disappointment is completely overshadowed by my gratitude for how I was able to push, my sense of accomplishment for it. This is something I will not soon forget. So thank you for watching, guys. Of course, as a reminder, if you are looking for fat loss help, you can go and grab a complimentary consultation below this video. There's also a video there to learn more about what we do. But of course, as always, make sure to eat smart, move more, sleep deep, and be grateful for this moment. I'll see you in the next video.